Hello and welcome to Chatco Podcast, where we break down and review a movie of my choosing, maybe Hayden's on occasion, and just try to have fun. I'm your host, Drinking Thomas Hughes.
We didn't have fun this time.
No,
We're broken.
we very much cried while watching this movie, both when it released and watching it.
We're broken.
So we explain what we're watching, Hayden.
Watch Logan.
Yes. Hold on.
It's almost as sad as the scene to when Spider-Man went away, and it was really upsetting.
Okay, I'm ready for this. Okay, yep. So today we're discussing Logan, released in 2017, and serving both as a final installment of this Wolverine trilogy, which we've obviously been covering the last few weeks, as well as the final appearance of not just Hugh Jackman as Logan, but obviously Patrick Stewart as Professor X. Obviously Xavier, they don't call him Professor X in this, which is weird. Anyway, obviously 17 years ago we first saw Hugh Jackman suit up as Wolverine in obviously X-Men. Good performance back then. That sort of, built him up as this guy, and then have been pooped.
They slowly broke him down.
Yeah.
Over the course of 3 films.
Yep.
Started off on a downhill, then went to a really great film. And this is a great. This third one is a great film, but in each installment they slowly broke him down. As I've been saying before, first taking his memories, second showing like
he can be hurt,
him being hurt, and also him. They've also took away his love life, and everyone around him is still kind of dying. And then we get to the third film, where he is at his lowest point.
Yeah.
Really.
And though I said 17 years, it was 17 years when this was released, back in 2017. It's 21 years now since we first saw him suit up. But obviously, movie logic was 17 years afterwards.
Oh, yeah.
It's inspired by the Old Man Logan comics by Mark Millar and Steve McNiven.
But there are some very different, moments to it.
Yeah, that's what I like about this. It's inspired by it, but it doesn't fully just copy and paste. It's like let's make our own movie. Bit like obviously Wolverine last week. It copied obviously the Japanese one they did, but it changed it completely and made its own film.
Yeah. I mean, it's like there's some moments where they make it seem like it's going to be the same as the comic, but it's completely different.
Yeah, hands down.
Like, for example, the reason why most of X-Men are dead.
Ooh. Oh, I wonder who did it. I wonder if it was a certain... Get out of my head, Charles!
Yeah.
Yeah,
no, it's definitely Wolverine. They're making it look it's Wolverine.
But anyway, the movie was once again directed by the great James Mangold, who obviously we saw last week, the second installment in this trilogy, and they were like, hey, this guy's good. Let's get him back. And
he did good.
And I think we can both agree we're glad they brought him back.
Yeah, they brought him back, and then he entertained us in the previous film, and now broke us in this film.
Yep.
Yeah.
But anyway, obviously I name dropped a few of his films last week. The ones that sort of inspired this movie, essentially, like the song choices for the trailer and the sort of tonage you get. And I've got a few other films he directed. I didn't name drop. So he did the film Identity, which was an alright, psychological movie. Night and Day, the one with Cameron Diaz and Tom Cruise. And of course, his next movie he's actually doing is going to be Indiana Jones 5, which...
Wait, what?
Yeah, he's doing Indiana Jones 5.
There's going to be a 5th one?
Steven Spielberg was going to do it as obviously like Harrison Ford's like last hurrah sort of thing. Or like possibly more than likely his last go around because how old he is. But he stepped away. He was like, I want like someone else to take over. And James Mangold is taking over Indiana Jones. He's doing Indy 5. And hopefully he brings this feel from Logan into that. Which is part of the question of the day later, which is one of my answers, if you couldn't guess already, Hayden. Because I feel like this guy can make Indiana Jones great again. Now I'm sounding like Trump.
A little bit.
Shoot me in the face, please. With
Okay.
an adamantium bullet, please. Oh.
Spoiler.
But yeah, hopefully it brings this sort of feel from this one into that one and makes it feel like the first two indie movies rather than the later two, especially the latter
Yeah,
one. Because it
I think
went, it was like dark, and then it started like going less dark, especially with the later one. It was like kept the sort of slight dark tone, but went more family adventure, which Indie's not. Indiana Jones is not a family adventure. Look at Kalimar, for example. That's not a family thing.
Indiana Jones,
Kalimar.
like literally, Indiana Jones, literally just Nazis and Whip Boy.
Basically, yeah.
That's the most of the films, and then we get to the third one, the fourth one. Third one still had Nazis. The fourth
Yeah.
one was just like, let's trade Nazis for Russians, and
Yeah.
then go. And then we'll say the Russians are the bad guys, but it was also
Aliens.
aliens.
It just went. It
Wow,
basically went too kooky. Which,
a bit.
yeah. We'll move on then and actually get into this. So let's give some early thoughts without obviously giving a rating. And I think you can agree with me here, Hayden. This is probably one of the. Well, sorry, this is probably is the best solo superhero movie out there.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's like it doesn't even require a lot to show obviously superpowers. Yeah, it does show superpowers, but it's not something that's relied on for this movie. It's full focus obviously on Logan. His progression going, I would say going uphill, but it's actually going downhill, which is unusual for progression. It's usually a steady progression up, but in this
Yeah,
film it's progression down, 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 and this is full on just a bit like Joker in a sense, a character driven story. It's not relying on any other crap. No, obviously it introduces obviously the daughter element, and obviously you still got Patrick Stewart there. It That's just like its side plot. Its full plot is just a character driven story to
yeah.
end the Wolverine franchise with Hugh Jackman, which
Mm.
is a great thing because this movie is just probably the best piece of cinematography you can find.
It's fucking amazing.
They fucking knew what they were doing and went, hey, let's break them down like we said we have broke down completely. I broke down many
Oh
times
yeah.
watching this movie. Let's make them go, oh my god, with the gore and the action. Let's get them off the edge of the seat, then pull them. Because literally, this movie, obviously, you got the action bit at the start, then it sort of drops it down a bit into like this, character-driven part. It's like slowing you down, slowing you down. Then it gives you a bit more action. Then it knows when to like put the action in to speed up the plot, but also then to put back it into the non-action part to then drive the story even more. And that's what I liked even more about it.
Yeah. I mean, it was there was a lot of gore, as you mentioned, there's a lot of action, but they also had a lot of slow moments and character-driven moments.
Like I'm just
Like, for
driving.
example, remember that bit where obviously you got Xavier and Wolverine, but they're basically they're sitting around that little like dinner table with his family, but that like
Yeah, they slowed it down next. Just having like a little family
yeah,
meal. It's sort of like
and
the
you
calm before the storm, essentially.
yeah, it's basically like that them two like reminiscent the good old days because this is really then both of those their last hurrah, as you say.
And that meal
It's
is
their last
basically their
meal.
last supper,
Yeah,
essentially.
and the ironic is that the Judas to this one is obviously the cloney boy.
X24.
Next 20, yeah, that's it, 24.
Which, technically, because I was obviously doing a lot of reading into this before.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, when I said to you, oh, we're going to do Logan, I was like, okay, I'm going to do a bit of look into it. And obviously, the end of Apocalypse shows obviously the vials, because that came out a year before this, and it shows like Wolverine's like DNA in there.
Mm-hmm.
And that technically sort of links that into this timeline a bit more. Because though
Yeah.
this is its own sort of timeline, it still technically connects to like Apocalypse for that sense
Mm-hmm.
of the vials, as well as also connecting to the first X-Men because of the Statue of Liberty scene.
Yeah, that's correct.
It connects to every single one, but at the same time, it doesn't, which
Yeah.
is confusing but works massively in his film's
It,
favour.
yeah. It's like the hint at like that day was probably like the last like moment a mutant was born. And that's when the slow it showed the decline and slowly they were becoming extinct. After that like moment, that would have been like the last time. So it's quite intriguing way that they put that in quite good. Obviously, how it's all linked because obviously in Days of Future Past, they do mention how there's like a sacrifice for like changing the timeline. Even though the mutants are being hunted down, but in this new timeline, he said that it's naturally they started going out instead. So it's
Apart
quite
from
unique.
one sequence that we never get to see where clearly Charles says that he's just murdered loads of mutants.
Oh yeah, he also killed.
12, wasn't it? About 12, I think they said.
Yes.
It was something like that because he was like so many, like it was loads of people, but at the same time, it took the lives like
Mm,
a lot of mutants at the same time, and he just like
mm.
repressed his emotions,
Yeah,
which
'cause I
is good.
think,
Not repressing your emotions, that's not a good thing to do,
I know.
as seen by what's happening in this film. But for the context of this movie, it's good.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's good. Obviously, the whole point of that is because obviously in the comics, it's Wolverine's fault. Why is from the X-Men are dead? So they make it seem like it's still Wolverine's fault in this film. But obviously, it's Xavier because of his deteriorating mind.
Which is, I think they handled really well in this film.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's obviously essentially it's showing like obviously because you got this superpower essentially his brain, but it's
Mhm.
obviously also showing the fact that though that he's got this superpower in his mind, he can still succumb to essentially human disease like stuff like dementia and shit like that, which
Yeah.
basically affects your mind. And in this case, it's not the best person for it to affect for the fact that his mind go boom boom.
Yeah, because even though he's got a deteriorating mind, he's still a telepath. He's still a really powerful mind, and would cause this much destruction just from having these like attacks.
Seizures essentially as a
Mm.
Wolverine says at one point because you had a fucking seizure. Attack seizure, same sort of situation here. I just think I think personally, I just think they handle a lot of the stuff in this movie perfectly.
Yeah.
Like deaths, obviously, they say the action, which we'll get to in a bit.
Mm.
The story itself, they just handle everything as well as you'd want for this final hurrah in Hugh Jackman's
Mm.
Wolverine career and Patrick Stewart's Charles career.
Yeah.
They did it perfectly. I couldn't ask for a better movie.
You got to think of it as well. Throughout this film, there is no like unnecessary e- um what's it called, exposition. Like that they like refrain from treating the audience like kids, like they would be for other like X-Men films, because they don't need to. This is an adult film, so they can like at least refrain from doing stuff like that, and they can just like go into the actual proper story instead of being like, "Oh, I'm Wolverine. I am a mutant with healing powers and whatnot." They ain't got to do that really. They can just jump into him being a beat up Uber driver.
Basically, yeah.
Mhm.
Well, the thing is, he obviously wasn't at one point. He was going to be this sort of 12A
Yeah,
situation, but Hugh Jackman went, "I'm going to take a pay cut. You make this a proper R-rated." Well, in the UK, wherever my Blu-ray is, here it is. 15 over here, just like Deadpool was.
we had a weird. We got a weird like age
Yeah,
system.
no, because
No, is it wasn't Deadpool like 2, the R-rated version and the PG version for us were both 15.
I think so. Yeah, 'cause it was PG-13, wasn't it, in America? This,
Yeah, 13, yeah.
which obviously is a 15 for
Yeah,
us.
yeah,
That is obviously PG-13 is the equivalent of a 15 rating, whereas ours is equivalent of an 18. But
yeah.
it's
Over
as is weird. I feel like, to be fair though, this is I wouldn't put this in 18, though it is a bit gory at times. I personally don't think there was like. Then again, I'm surprised there's that one little bit of nudity they didn't put an 18, because it's usually fucking like ones who did the certifications and whatnot. They see one bit of nudity and it ups it just a bit, and obviously there is that bit of nudity when that woman flashes her tits, which is like the
a bit
first.
fine. No, a bit fine. It's only if like, they fully focused on it for a long time. That's when it would become an 18.
No,
Also, the gore is probably just below the bar.
mistakes. It wasn't fully focused a lot of the times. It was like quick cut,
Yeah,
like quick and that. So yeah, okay.
that's why.
Okay, then we'll move on then to the
Mhm.
online rating info I've got here. So on Rotten Tomatoes, it has a 93% critic rating, which is like probably one of the highest superhero ratings out there, or well, comic book in general, I believe. I don't 100% think there's any higher than this. I think maybe I don't know. Actually, I don't think there is one. There might be. There probably is one. There's one little sort of one that I can't think of that's just higher than this critics wise. But I know even Joker critics wise wasn't as high as this. But its audience rating is 90%, which again is quite high. I'm not going to say if it's too high or too low for me, because I feel like if I say it's too low or too high, then you sort of get a gist of what I'm going with for my rating. So I'm just going to...
You know what you're going to go for.
I'm just going to zip my mouth for now, shut my mouth up. Over on IMDb, it has a 8.1 out of 10, which again, I'm going to keep my mouth a little bit shut here. Metacritic, it has 77 out of 100 Metascore and 8.4 user rating. So obviously the lowest tier is the 77 on Metascore. But I still think it's got a solid meta ratings there. I just feel like it was screwed over at like the awards ceremonies. I feel like it should have won more awards. I feel like it should have been nominated for more awards. Because I think at the Oscars it was only nominated for like best like adapted screenplay. That was it. That was it. And it didn't even win. It just got nominated. I feel like it deserved a Hugh Jackman nomination for best actor. I feel like it deserved Patrick Stewart for supporting actor. I feel like it deserved obviously best director for Mangold. I feel like writing. I feel like it deserved to be nominated for a lot of stuff. That's what pisses me off with the Oscars and the movie awards in general. They on occasion will chuck like a bone to superhero movies, but only on occasion when it's like this sort of impactful movie, like when obviously Black Panther came out. Yeah. They threw a bone at that, and then they showed up then after that. They never fucking... I think the last one after that's got nominated... Oh. I think Endgame may have got nominated for like visual effects, that was it.
That was it.
I think
it's more because...
I think Birds of Prey is getting nominated for like makeup and that's it. I swear.
Isn't that what...
Suicide Squad won, yeah.
Yeah,
that got... Yeah. It's like one of the only... Joker technically obviously won quite a bit. He won a few. Yeah. He won a few awards, but it obviously didn't win the best picture. That was that Asian film. What's it called? It slipped my mind. It's on my list. No, it's gone. No, it's that one by the guy who made the film The Host. It's gonna bug me. That is. I can't remember what it's called.
I like how like your description of like that Asian film is like that's like me going the American film. I can't think.
It was Korean. It was a South Korean movie. Does that narrow it down even more for you?
Oh, really? South Korean film. There's that Train to Busan. That's the only one I know. But
you're making me Google it. Where's my Google again?
James.
This is when we need him here.
The only time we need.
Hold on. I know the best place to look for this is on Amazon because it's on Amazon Video. That's where I've put it in my list to watch. Watch list. Parasite. That was it.
Parasite.
That was it. Another film that went black and white at one point as well. But obviously that beat the Joker to a few awards. But I mean, apart from obviously those sort of movies like Black Panther and Joker, they never really throw a bone to any other movie, like comic book wise. As I say, the occasional like, you know, the dress style and shit like that. That's it. They never really go like, best picture.
Yeah.
I don't know. Fair enough with some of them. Fair enough with some. You don't know, obviously, because some are just like these generic sort of movies. But I mean, some do deserve a bit more recognition. Obviously, Joker deserved the recognition.
Yeah, this definitely does.
I feel like for how impactful Black Panther was, it did deserve a bit of recognition. I feel like Endgame deserved a bit more recognition, and Infinity War, because those were two big movies.
Yeah, I think in Infinity War, I think Chris Evans and Chris Hemsworth, like they deserve something good for that. Because they were brilliant in that. And obviously in Endgame, all three of them really needed something.
Yeah, exactly. But obviously they got fuck all. And as I said, this deserved a bit more than it even got nominated for. It deserved a lot more than it did. I remember watching this back in 2017 in cinema.
Yeah.
I went out, I want to say a Saturday night, sat back in the cinema, and had a blast watching this movie. And I had a blast watching it today while crying watching it.
I mean, like, there's so much great with this film that it definitely does a lot. Like, even something as subtle as like the visuals were fucking amazing. Like how
Yeah,
the lighting was
hands
done.
down.
Like Hugh Jackman was amazing in it. Even like all the others, like as we mentioned before, Patrick Stewart, he was fucking amazing in this. Like you could actually believe he was deteriorating and that he was
On the verge of dying, essentially.
yeah, and as broken as Logan is.
Exactly.
Even sort of like woman played Laura, she was amazing as well. Like she actually managed to hold her own with Logan there. Like, as great as Hugh Jackman, and she managed to like really work with him.
Exactly.
I know
Okay.
there's things that she improved with him, like what she felt would have been better than what was actually written, and they went with her version. So.
Okay. We'll move on then. We spoke quite a while then. We got really into that conversation. So we'll move on to the opening sequence, which is obviously what I've dubbed Logan, the limo, and the thieves.
Uber driver.
Yeah, the Uber driver, as Hayden likes to call it. Obviously, essentially a kind of a drunk-ish Wolverine. He's a bit tipsy here.
Oh yeah.
He's obviously a bit injured as well, and obviously his limo's getting stolen. Well, his hubcap's getting stolen from the limo. Then he comes out, confronts him, gets shot, then goes full Wolverine on him, and just brutally murders everyone. And I love this scene for the fact that obviously when he gets shot, you have that transition of the Logan just popping on the screen. Instead of like this, like, obviously you look at the Avengers movies, he's just black, and then you have the title come on the screen, like this cinematic moment. This didn't need it. It just needed that subtle Logan. It just needed to pop on the screen. That was it, which works so well for me. And then the actual fight itself, because it starts off like showing that he can still like handle himself, but he's weak. He's weak as fuck, and they can just take him down. But then it also showcases that when he gets angry, he still has the power just to wipe the floor with these fuckers, which he did when he cut that one guy's arm off. He fucking just stabbing him left, right, and centre. It was a great scene, a great opening for this movie. It set the tone for what this movie was going to be.
He definitely felt like an old man Logan.
Definitely. All he was missing is the cowboy hat.
Yeah, and also this is also like the biggest difference between the comics and the film, because in that comic he was a pacifist.
But in this,
He
you just stab.
definitely not. Definitely not
He definitely isn't. But to be fair, for this being his last movie, he didn't have to be. We needed him going full Wolverine on these fuckers. I feel like if he was a pacifist, I don't know, I feel like it would have been a bit more duller. I feel like those moments of Wolverine going full Wolverine is what, gets you there.
He kind of had that in the first film, like the previous film. In the previous film, he wanted to be a pacifist, but just couldn't.
It kind of wouldn't have made any sense. Obviously, if this does slightly continue from the others, it wouldn't make any sense of him, being a pacifist. It wouldn't make any sense.
Because accepting in the previous film, he accepted who he was, and now in this film, it's more like he knows who he is. It's just he's moved on. He's moved from it.
And he's become an Uber driver.
Yeah.
Who drives a limo and gets tits flashed at him, and kids in the back shouting USA just to rile up the other nationality.
Pension.
Yep. But yeah, I feel like this film couldn't have opened in any better way. I feel like it just tops the Hiroshima scene for me from the last film.
Oh, definitely.
Because that was good, but this just tops it for the fact it set the tone of how this movie was going to be. It showcased, obviously, the fact that it's going to have loads of gore. It showed that Wolverine was going to swear like fuck.
Yeah, definitely.
Because obviously, it's that one bit when he's like, motherfucker. And you're like, okay, well, I'm getting into this. Even the fact that it shows that he's even though obviously it's a vehicle, it shows how protective he's going to be later in this movie when it comes to Laura and obviously Charles. But the fact that he's trying to stop the limo getting shot, he's like, not the car, and obviously he's getting shot himself, and the car gets shot. And he's like, for fuck's sake! And he's like, fuck this shit. That's it. I'm done. And then this goes full Wolverine on them, which is great to watch.
And as well, like I mentioned before, had like there's no like unnecessary exposition. Like he doesn't go around like saying, "Damn it, Adamantium's weak in me" or something. They show it instead. They show how he's weaker instead of like actually him telling it.
He does sort of say it later on in the movie. He says
Yeah, later
because
on,
when
but
he says that it's in both of us and it's probably what's killing me.
yeah,
He never actually it does it right. It doesn't like just
yeah.
force it. It does it
Like how they did it was that was
realistic.
more like in the character, while like he's telling her because she needs to know anyways for the future.
Exactly.
But like in that first moment, he wouldn't need to like address it, would he? Because for him, it's just
Nah.
life. Now he's
Exactly.
used to it.
It felt a bit forced.
Hmm.
So I'm glad that I agree. I'm glad they didn't do something like that
Yeah.
because you can sort of tell by yourself that he's not the Wolverine we know, but he still
Hmm.
at the same time is. So
Yeah, it's
that's
yeah,
great.
they're treating the audience like adults and not like a kid.
Exactly. Because this movie was for adults.
Yeah, because like, as you can tell, there's a lot of like gore,
And you mean the
a lot of
fact that he
swearing.
cut a guy's hand off in the first five
Yeah,
minutes?
yeah. Also, like they don't have like unnecessary action and stuff where like just to keep people entertained.
No,
They
it's
can have these slow moments.
yeah, exactly. Anyway, we'll move on to casting characters. So first off,
Yeah.
we have obviously Logan, played by Hugh Jackman, who also plays X-24 in this movie.
Yes, he does.
He plays good and bad, which works for this film. Uh,
Hmm.
he was in the movie Van Helsing, which is definitely not a subtle hint.
Um, I do love that.
You do love Van Helsing, do you?
I do.
It's a
It's a
good
good film.
film with bad CGI.
Yeah, the CGI was awful, but the film
Yeah,
itself was pretty
yeah.
good.
I think in this, I think Hugh Jackman gives us another side to Logan,
Yeah,
and it
definitely.
works so well. He gives us obviously this emotional side as well as this sort of darker tone.
Yeah,
And
I think as well, this is probably the most human he's been.
yeah, hands down, it's the most human has been. And on top of that, he gives us a decent villain portrayal as well of X-24. Though he doesn't
Yeah,
say a word, it's his physical acting that showcases, which is great.
yeah.
It shows how good Hugh Jackman is.
I think that's the whole point of like having him there. He's supposed to be like X-24 is supposed to be his pure animalistic like side.
Yeah,
With like just no human whatsoever. I think that's why he didn't speak. It's like he's supposed to be just
rage.
yeah, pure killing and not like an actual person, which is what Logan really is.
I,
He's supposed to,
I agree.
yeah.
I agree with that. I think that's about right.
Because the whole point of Wolverine, like he's always been struggling with the fact that he feels himself to be an animal. Like he thinks he's just a killing machine. Obviously, compare him to X-24, you realise just how human he is.
Exactly. I hands down agree with that. On my hands are on my desk. I agree with that statement.
Oh, point.
That is a great statement. Well done. Magnificent.
Thank you, collector. Thank you.
So next up, we obviously have Charles Xavier, played by the great Patrick Stewart, who
Oh,
obviously made his name in a lot of stuff over the years,
yeah,
including obviously playing Picard in the old Star Trek shows. But he obviously reprised that role recently in that Star Trek Picard series, which was essentially quite like Logan, and it was a darker
mm,
toned version of what he made famous. And
yeah,
as we said during obviously our early thoughts, he's great in this movie. He literally makes you think that he is this mess of a man now.
yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
you couldn't have asked for
his
a better way
portrayal,
of doing it.
I mean, his portrayal in this is almost as great as his portrayal as a piece of shit in an emoji movie.
I had a drink in my fucking mouth. You couldn't have waited till a gulped.
I can't see.
Nah, his best performance has got to be in extras when he keeps talking about his got a superpower and he just like looks at someone next minute and naked. Do you remember that?
I d-
And he's
Oh,
like, and then in my mind, they are naked.
he's always like a good character, like actor to have.
Yeah,
I
and
mean,
I'm glad they brought him back for this.
yeah,
It's just a shame they didn't bring back a fucking
in the
Gandalf. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. It's just because I remember like a Graham Norton show interview after when this was coming out, and he come walking out and goes, "Why wasn't I in the movie?" He's like, It's like, come on, why wasn't I in the movie? He's like, oh shit. So
I like, yeah,
I think Ian
I like
McKellen was there for the fact that I think it was when Beauty and the Beast come out, so he was there promoting Beauty and the Beast, and he just walked out towards both Hugh Jackman and Patrick Stewart and was like, "Come on, why wasn't I in the movie?" And they're like, "Oh shit."
I like to think, like in my little head canon, that Magneto was there when Xavier had that moment where he killed some X-Men. I like to think he also killed him, and that's the reason why he like shut down and tried to repress that memory. Because
Oh, that's a good
of
theory.
all the people, that is the one person I don't think he would like break down knowing he hurt.
Oh, that's a good theory.
Yeah.
I like that theory. I like that
Not a
theory a
head
lot.
canon.
But I know a lot of people have done about. Obviously, it would have been cool if Leaf Shrever come back as Sabretooth.
Yeah,
In like,
like instead of being like X-24, it's him.
no, not in a villain role, like in an actual sort of slightly good guyish role.
Ah,
Like he's
yeah.
it sort of helps him out, and obviously maybe they both die. Who knows?
Mm.
But obviously they didn't do that, and they went with this.
He takes over by protecting Laura.
Maybe. Who knows? That would have been. Oh, he takes the kids and protects them. It shows like a different side to say.
Yeah,
But they missed an opportunity there.
but then of course we've got to explain the reason why he hasn't gone for the weird change he has for the X-Men.
Well, they've retconned a lot of stuff in Days of Future Past, so they could have retconned that.
They could have.
Yeah. Anyway, next character up is the first of our two villains. Well, it's technically three, but I've done the one already. Dr. Xander Rice, played by Richard E. Grant. And obviously there's a lot of stuff I could have said for him here. Obviously Hitman's Bodyguard, he was in there. But I've got one here for you, Hayden, which I think you'll agree is a good pick for me here. The Hyde Henry movie.
I knew you were going to say that. That's the first thing I thought of.
I was looking for the stuff. I was like, what can I say? Because I could say Hitman's Bodyguard because he was in a scene in that. I was like, there's lots of other things I could say he's from as well. I was like, Hyde Henry movie. Hayden will respect me saying that as his choice.
I mean, you could have said like from Doctor Who. You could have said so much stuff, but Howard Henry, because that is the first thing I thought of.
It's it's an alright film from back in the day.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously loved it because obviously he has Kimberly Walsh in it, but it's a pretty good film. He had Dick and Dom, fucking Dick and Dom.
There's a lot of famous people in. It's a very British movie.
No shit, the British series based. Yeah, totally going to be very British, isn't it?
Anyway, I think he's not a lot in this movie. He's a bit like obviously the old guy from the last film. He comes in every now and again, but when he's in it, he does a good job. To be fair, obviously he's in. I think his first sort of introduction is it's with the helicopter. When the helicopter comes in, isn't it? After the attack at the facility, he then comes in as a little sequence, which was a decently acted scene, and then obviously comes back later on when they capture Laura. And he's there just yelling at X-24. He's like, "Come back here now!" And I think he does a decent job. He's a good actor. To be fair, they couldn't have chose a better actor. I think he did a good job of being this sort of villainous character, like he was in the Horrid Henry movie.
He's always very good at being that kind of sinister kind of character.
Very much.
Like, he once voiced like 2 villains in Doctor Who. Technically 3, because in that one episode, because he played the Great Intelligence. He's like supposed to be like the antithesis of the Doctor and whatnot. So he went through the Doctor's time stream and all that kind of shit. But he also played the human that he possessed, and he played what's his face? He played like some weird like bad guy in the animated episode.
He's a good actor.
It's pretty good.
He's a very good British actor. We've got 2 good British actors in this movie.
Very British.
Very British, this movie is. Very British.
He's always good for the sinister kind of villain.
Yeah, and I think they chose the right one to play Rice. Obviously, technically speaking, one of the early sort of ideas was it going to be Mr. Sinister, wasn't it? Because it was going to follow on from Apocalypse with the idea of Mr. Sinister coming into it and then
Yeah.
that didn't come through, so they went with this guy instead. Then they were going to do the same with New Mutants, and then they scrapped that, and then put another bad guy in and scrapped that, and then went with something else. Whew. But yeah.
Yeah.
He's a good actor. Next villain we have is Donald Pierce, the guy with the robot hand, played by Boyd Holbrook, who was in The Predator.
Mm-hmm.
And
He's a very good, like, Southern drawl. He makes it a very Western kind of film.
yeah,
He helps emphasize that, I think.
he's a. I do like Boyd Holbrook. I liked him in Narcos. He was like I think he was a cop in that, and a lot of stuff I've seen him in. Even if it's like a bit naff, he does a good job. He does, like Predator, for example. That was a half decent movie at best, but he was like the standout of the film. And I think as the sort of actual sort of villain that's going to be on the screen a lot more than the other villains, they chose the right actor because I think he does a really good job. He's very menacing at times, as well as like sort of down to earth as well. He's got his when he gets in the limo with Wolverine, he's a bit down to earth. But then later on, when he's obviously after getting knocked out by Wolverine, he becomes a bit more aggressive and villainous.
It's like I like how like even though he's completely okay with torturing and experimenting on kids, he's also really wants to get some. He's really like a really fanboy and wants to get some like autographs and shit.
And he's like, "I'm a fan of yours, Logan."
It's like, oh, you sad my boobs.
It's not the first person who's said they're a fan of him. There's a lot of characters in X-Men movies that go, "I'm a fan of yours."
Almost like every single like X-Men audience member, he's a big fan of Logan.
Basically, yeah.
Look at this, they're everyone's favourite character.
Okay, we'll move on to our next character, which is our good guy character, one of the last two good guys we've got here. And it's Caliban, played by Stephen Merchant. Come on, it's Stephen fucking Merchant.
A great British actor.
Exactly. And obviously, it's the second time Caliban's been seen it. The first time the year before in Apocalypse, where it was more like a bit part just to showcase that basically to get characters from point A to point B. Whereas this is actually a bit more of a main presence, and they chose the right actor here because he's obviously he's been in loads of stuff. Obviously, was he in the Tooth Fairy with The Rock?
If he was,
yeah,
yes.
I thought he was, and he was in a film that I liked as well. Come out 2 years ago, I think it was. Which he wrote, he directed, and he starred in. Which was Fighting with My Family. That one about the wrestler from Norwich.
I want to watch that.
You want to watch? It's a good film. I recommend it. It's a great movie, and he plays actually quite a funny part in it. He's only in like a bit of it. He's like her brother's wife, girlfriend. I can't remember off the top of my head what it was. Basically, her dad. And he's quite funny. And obviously, he wrote that movie and he directed that movie. And have you ever seen him how he writes his scripts? Because he can't get under a table. Have you ever seen him do an interview when he explains how he writes scripts? He says when he goes like to hotel rooms, and obviously they haven't got any tables, and if they do, he's fucking massive. He's too tall to get underneath the table, so he has to like make a makeshift. Like he has to do like a MacGyver table out of like different things that are in the room just to make it so he can actually write. He like was there explaining like how he was doing this. Like he's like, oh, there's like an ironing board there. I'll whip that out. I'll put that down. I'll put this in there and this and there. And he goes, there you go. I've got my table to write on. I was like, that sounds exactly like what Stephen Merchant would do, though, because he's good.
I think he's like America's like if they want like a British comedian, like starring as a role, it's usually like him.
Yeah.
Or, some other like Brits, but normally it's him. I do like that.
He's a good actor, and obviously it was shown in this. He played more of a serious role in this than you used to seeing him play, and he knocks it out of the park. Obviously, he's way better than the Caliban we got in Apocalypse, but that was because that was a completely different style of Caliban we got in that movie. But this version, obviously, this version as well showcases the burning side of the fact that they can't be outside. Yeah. And he does it well. I like that scene when he's getting burnt and his head just drooling. That was really that looked great. And it was sold more by him just drooling.
Obviously as well, there's the whole point of like the big bad southern bad guy.
Yeah.
He's the one who's pushing the finger, oh careful the light or something like that. And there's a callback when he goes boom.
Yeah, he's like beware the light.
Beware the light, yeah.
He goes boom. I love
That's
that. I love that scene.
mm,
But yeah, he was a great choice for Caliban. It was interesting to see him actually utilize Caliban a bit more,
yeah,
which is interesting. Obviously, he's not a mutant that's usually massively used. As
yeah,
seen with Apocalypse, he was just there to go, oh yeah, Jennifer Lawrence, Magneto's gone crazy. Go back to Charles. There you go. And then here's my assistant, Apocalypse. Oh, you're gonna have her. Oh, basically
yeah.
that was his role in that movie.
Pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much. I summed it up very good there. To be fair.
I mean, like, as all the characters from the X-Men, people probably thought, like, oh, why didn't they use Storm? Why didn't they use this character? But, like, I think the whole point is he's probably, of all of the, like, mutants, he's one of the ones that probably would have survived this long, just hiding away from all, like, the fights and chaos and stuff. Being able to know where people are, so that he's capable of hiding from all this, any kind of, like, trouble, whereas obviously other like notable X-Men members would be dead.
Exactly.
They'd have been, like, killed by Xavier by accident, and the only one that probably would have survived that attack is Wolverine, the one
Exactly.
who's the main person in the film. So it
Exactly.
makes sense to be more of a background, unknown, like fairly unknown kind of character.
Exactly.
They chose the right one, I think.
Yep. And obviously, last off, we have Laura, obviously X-23, played by Daphne Keane, who was in the TV series His Dark Materials, which also starred James McAvoy, who played the younger version of Patrick Stewart's Charles Xavier. Huh.
um,
Connections. But yeah, she does good in this. She's obviously the first so long she's in it, she plays a mute. But then when she obviously starts speaking a bit later on, but even when she's just this mute character, she sells it more on obviously a body acting again, which
yeah,
shows
I think
your skill basically. If you can basically sell a character without even saying a word, you know you're good. And she does
I
it.
think, like, I think the reason why it starts off as a mute and slowly becomes more warming, like Logan for that. It's another parallel, because obviously the whole point of Logan, he's struggling with the whole animalistic side and his human side, and that's kind of the same kind of thing here. He starts off with this like pure raid kind of like X-24, but then becomes more human. I think because of the connection with Logan. More parallels they've done.
Yeah. She's a good choice. She's good in that Dark Material series as well, but in this, she's great.
I mean, you remember when I was like really excited for X-23.
Yeah, I remember.
I've read the comics of X-23, and my god, are they fucking dark. Like, there are scenes of her self-harming herself. She can heal.
She
She
does it
still
in this as
self-harm.
well.
Yeah.
There's that one sequence she cuts her wrist and then it just keeps healing. And they're like, whoa, 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 stop doing that, stop doing that. She's like,
Like, the whole point in the, like, it's more focused in the comics, but like, the whole point is like, because her existence is pretty much just, I'm here to kill. Like, they have like a trigger scent with her as well, like, in the comics. Like, she smells something and she was going to blind range and slaughter anything in the vicinity. And that's how she ends up killing like her own like fake mom because of that scent. And it's
hmm.
dark as fuck. She becomes a fucking prostitute at one point. Seriously. In the comics, she becomes a prostitute. And
Okay,
then
well,
yeah, she ends up like killing like this like really bad person who was trying to get her to act like a child. Because in the comics she's more older.
I think we'll move
Yeah.
away from that.
Yeah.
I think we'll move on to the next topic of conversation here, which is
Hey,
story.
how dark it could have been.
Let's talk about the story then. So the start is basically obviously you meet the new Logan, then the middle is basically on the run with Laura and Charles, and the end is basically Logan's final battle, which basically sums up the sort of plot and how this movie goes. And I think it's a good story. I think they chose the perfect story for this. It obviously this sort of last act, last hurrah essentially for these characters, showcasing obviously him going from basically essentially beaten at the start anyway, but slowly going down and down and down even more was the perfect choice of sort of plotting for this movie. And I think the villains they chose as well were the perfect choices to go obviously against him. For the fact that X-24 took him to the limit, it literally that's the whole reason it ends as it does. It's because X-24 took him to the limit. And he's
Yeah.
the only villain that's really took him to the limit. Though Silver Samurai did take him to the limit, you can't really say much with that for the fact that he was stealing his adamantium and that, which is, cheating essentially.
Yeah, he said, like, this is the whole point, is that the best person to kill Wolverine
Is Wolverine.
Wolverine, yeah. That's the whole
Essentially.
point. Even this weakened old man version.
Exactly. Wolverine would just whoop his ass. And
Yeah.
I just think they chose a perfect story. I can't really fault it at all.
Yeah.
It flows perfectly.
The plot's pretty simple, but it has to be for the character-driven moments to be so good. You don't want the plot to outshine the characters themselves. This particular type of movie, and they handle that really well.
Hands down. They handled it perfectly. You couldn't ask for anything better for this last film. Okay, then we'll quickly move on then to cinematography. And this is an exceptional piece of cinematography, this film is. Obviously, so that one sequence when just the title appears on the screen next to him, that was beautiful looking. I just think the whole film is shot perfectly. The whole forest sequence when he's running through the forest looked beautiful. The whole sequence within the deserts and that looked really cool. The fucking scenes when Charles his mind's deteriorating and he's having to walk through all the pain, that looked fucking amazing to watch. He's just crawling through all the fucking walls trying to get to him. Yeah. That looked cool.
You can see how, like, the closer he gets to Charles, the more intense it gets.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, it's good. It's good.
It's perfect.
The lighting is always great.
So that's what I like with these Wolverine films. The cinematography gets better every time. So obviously we said the first one was like very average, mediocre cinematography, but the second one was vastly improved. It was great, but this one is just amazing.
It's kind of like ironic as well, though, because like the whole point is the character's supposed to go from top to like he can go story wise. It's a character going downhill, whereas the quality
is going uphill.
Goes up massively.
Yes, basically.
It starts at the lows it can be, then it goes up like pretty good, then like a steep up, probably like top of Everest kind of moment.
Basically, yeah. This is a weird franchise because it's very rare a franchise goes uphill with installments, but it does happen occasionally. John Wick's the prime example I had last week. That's a franchise that goes up.
Or the Sam Raimi Spider-Man, that goes from like pretty good to fucking amazing at the third film.
For fuck's
sake. That you could be like character moments. Fucking hell.
You know what? You know what, Hayden? I'm not going to disagree with you there. I love Spider-Man 3.
Shit film, but it's fucking amazing.
Yeah, it's a bad movie, but it's good just for the fact Sam Raimi did it on purpose.
It's like Star Wars prequels. They're so bad you can't. Like,
Basically.
You've got to watch it. It's fucking brilliant.
Essentially, yeah. Okay,
then. Also, with the memes, like make the film better. I think.
You know when a film creates memes, it's an incredible film.
Yeah, like Spider-Man 3, all Spider-Man, Sam Raimi Spider-Mans, the prequel Star Wars, and Shrek. That's evidence of meme makes a film better.
But yeah, cinematography, yeah, hands down, probably some of the best cinematography you'll see out there.
Oh,
for me, it's probably the best cinematography I've seen since Jaws. Though I did like Joker cinematography. I've said that many times. I enjoyed that vastly. I'd tip this over Joker.
I think the whole point, like this one, it was like just stunningly beautiful.
Yeah.
Whereas Joker is more like
bleak and dark.
It was good, but it was like hard to watch. Good.
Yeah. Yeah,
like,
I agree there.
Well done. Whereas that one was more like it just aesthetically, it's more beautiful.
Exactly.
And obviously, this is the benefit of the black and white as well.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a bit. I do want to talk about that. It's just a shame that. I'll explain a bit more what I was going to say in a minute. But yeah, we'll move on then to score. And I think this is the best score in the whole trilogy. The score is phenomenal. Heck, when you put the Blu-ray disc in and it's on the menu, it's got that that theme. It's got that over the back of it, and I didn't take the disc out straight away earlier, and it was just playing in the background. I was like, man, that score is fucking amazing. That just makes me want to click play again. It builds you up. I think the best bit of music in the whole film though is the forest scene at the end. Now when it goes really quiet and you hear that piano in the background. and then Wolverine like starts running through the forest, roaring. That bit just got me. I don't want to sound like James, so it got me hard, but you get where I'm going with this.
It got you, James.
It got me, James. Yes. But yeah, I think this is probably the best score in the whole trilogy. And again,
all the X-Men films, music-wise, definitely.
yeah, I agree there. I think it's the best in the whole X-Men franchise. And again, I'm going to say this. Best score we've covered since Jaws. Though Joker was a good score,
Yeah,
even though it was very hard to pronounce.
Some controversial moments, but it was good.
Even though the artist was very hard to pronounce for Hayden, it was a good score. But this is probably the best since John Williams' Jaws soundtrack. Yeah, that was good. And this is just magnificent.
Yeah, it almost rivals Shrek.
Sure, why not? Okay. Next up is special effects, which this used quite a bit. Obviously, the blood effects now was obviously a lot of that special effects and whatnot. The whole face when he's driving, that scene when he's in the car chase, that was obviously a stunt double. Then just obviously put Hugh Jackman's face over it, and you can't really tell.
No,
It looks like Hugh Jackman.
As well, the claws is probably the best I've ever looked.
Yeah, that one scene when his claws like all the way down.
Yeah,
that was cool. And then he has to pull it out. That was brutal to watch. And he's have to pull it out. His hands all bleeding because he's cutting into his hands. Oh, that was good to watch.
and obviously, like the thing about the whole point is like you can't just his claws. It's got to do as well. And there's X-23s and 24's claws. I think they had to put a lot of focus in that, making them look amazing. To not only make it look good, but also to differentiate it from the first film. Because those claws were awful. But this one and the previous one and this one were brilliant.
Yeah.
Visually.
Even the sort of things like the gunshot to the X-24's head at the end, that looked good. And the bullets falling out of Logan's chest, that looked really good. I'm assuming that was probably maybe a mixture of VFX and special, like normal practical. The bullets being the practical side of it, but obviously the VFX being the slightly healing part of it, and then pushing them out. But yeah, special effects probably the best they've been in the whole trilogy. It just explains this trilogy. Everything's better than it was previously. Let's just say that and move on. Because it was. And we'll move on to action then. Which, again, it's probably the best it's been the whole series.
Previous film was kind of action, because the whole film was action.
Yeah.
But this one's more like they savour the action moments for the right times, and when they do, fucking hell, it's amazing.
Yeah. We'll skip the, obviously, thief fight, because we did that for the talking about the intro, so we'll skip on to the next fight, which is obviously Logan and Laura versus the soldiers when they come after Laura at the base. And that was a good fight. It's when, at first, obviously, Hugh Jackman's getting his ass kicked, and obviously she comes in and starts fighting. Then he sort of slowly starts fighting, but gives up. He's like, no, I'm not going to do anything that much. But then he's watching her basically just brutally like fight through all these bad guys. For the fact that the head bit when she walks out and throws that guy's head on the floor, and he's like, no. And then he starts just cutting away from her more. And Hugh Jackman's like, oh, you know what? Fuck, I'm going to get involved now. And obviously he starts butchering and whatnot. And then he watches her get dragged away, and then her claw pops out of her foot, and he's like, what the fuck?
I love it.
And then he obviously stops because he has to obviously go and get Charles to help him, and he has to fucking butcher some guy. That bit when he chucks that guy in the back of the car and just fucking stabs him in the face, that looked fucking good to watch. And obviously then Laura doing the flips and that when she's cutting through him with the claws in her feet, that looked fucking amazing. That whole fight, it's not my favourite fight in the film, but it's a good fucking fight.
I love that moment as well when he first realizes that she had some same powers.
Yeah, he's like, whoa.
Fuck.
He's like, how is this possible?
I also like the differences in how they fight as well. Because obviously the whole point of X-23, she's like, it's based off obviously Wolverine, but the animal she's based off is more of like lionesses and like female, like big cats and stuff. Whereas Wolverine's based off the way obviously he's more actual Wolverine, how he fights. He's very similar to how they fight. And they did little differences, like the fact that she like goes for more vulnerable parts, and he just goes straight for chest kind of ways. So I love the differences in how they fight. I don't know. she's more flippy. And,
Yeah, she's a lot more agile for the fact that she like climbers on that one guy's face and starts stabbing the shit out of his head. Whereas Wolverine would just cut the head clean off.
And she just have the foot claw as well.
Yeah.
So.
It's a good fight. It's not, I'd say it's not a favourite fight, but it's a good fight. And obviously then there's like the whole car chasing and whatnot, he's having to deal with them that way. And obviously shows her healing ability as well in the car chase when she gets obviously hit and she has to suck the bullet out. And Charles is like, whoa, what the fuck?
She's like you.
Very much like you.
Like you, but she doesn't have the pee-pee.
Basically then obviously it's a little while then before we get our next fight, which is the obviously soldiers at the hotel when obviously Charles has his meltdown. But that obviously it's not really a fight for the fact it's just Wolverine killing loads of people. I love that sequence and stuff. That obviously at first he doesn't have to use his claws to fucking go wall to wall, but it's the fucking soldiers' faces, man. When they see him coming towards them, they're like, you can see it in the face, like, oh, we're fucked. The faces literally are saying we're fucked. And obviously he's there one by one, putting his claws through the heads and whatnot. That was fucking brutal and cool to watch. Every single face you look at, they're all looking down at him and was like, well, we're boned. Bye bye. It's a good sequence, and obviously topped off by Charles's the sort of visual effects of Charles's pushing them all, like freezing them all in spot. It's not just them; obviously, it's freezing everyone in the fucking vicinity.
Obviously, the only person who's strong enough to deal with it is the one who's resistant to like telepathic.
And obviously, Laura on the floor because she's obviously trying to pass him. She has to pass him the injection, doesn't she, to help him stop? And obviously, it's when he goes downstairs after that, and he's just there going, I'm so sorry to everyone. I don't know, no one's going to know what the fuck he's done about it. They're like, what? Not half of them are fucking unconscious on the floor, and he's there just apologising to unconscious corpses, which shows his sympathetic side.
Oh yeah, because obviously the whole point is he didn't want this to happen. He's just a broken man.
Exactly. And obviously then again, it's a little while before we get our next fight, because obviously we have to meet that, the dead family.
Oh yeah.
And obviously we meet them, they befriend them, we have our last supper, whatnot. And obviously the water goes out, so Logan, obviously the dad, have to go and deal with that. But obviously then we get obviously this bonding moment. Obviously Laura sort of bonds with the son a bit more, with obviously the music and whatnot and his trophies. But then obviously when she goes to bed and Charles is in bed, obviously we meet these sort of arsehole farmer guys, entrepreneur geezers with Logan and that. When Logan punches the one guy, snaps his gun, is like, oh, why don't you go play Oakley dickhead somewhere else? And this film's got some good comedy moments. It knows when to do it. Like when Charles goes, I need to go pee. That was funny. But and obviously what we think is Wolverine, because they do it right, because obviously they have Logan in his tank top. So when we see a figure enter Charles' room, it's also got a tank top. So you're like, oh, Logan's back. That's cool. And obviously there's a whole sequence of Charles like having this like heart to heart with Logan, explaining that he's realised everything, he knows what's going on, he's he won the same now, he knows what he's feeling and whatnot. And then you just pan up to Wolverine's face, and because obviously you see Laura's face on the floor, she can tell it's not him instantly. But then you see obviously this sort of obviously flat top Wolverine, and you're like, wait, what? That's not Logan. Obviously Charles turns over, and the last second he's like, Logan, and obviously just stabs him in the chest. Which, as I said, I cried at watching today. Yeah. I teared up. I was gone. I was like, oh my god, no, this is too sad. Obviously, we have Laura fucking just dive on his back, start stabbing the shit out of him. Obviously, you get to see obviously this Wolverine's healing ability and whatnot. And then obviously, she's knocked down. And the kid comes in with the baseball bat, gets fucking his ass kicked. But at that point, we then see that he's being watched through his eyes. There's like cameras in his eyes because Royce and obviously the other bad guy sat in the van outside watching. They're literally watching him do this. And he's like, and Caliban's getting upset now. He's like, oh, you said you only wanted the girl, because obviously he's friends with Charles, and he's seen innocent people as well die. And he's like, you're killing people and Charles, what the hell? And obviously in the process, the kid dies. Then the mom comes out. She's obviously got a gun to him. Then the fucking dad comes back, hears his wife die, gets killed himself. But then that sequence, I love that sequence when obviously X-24 comes walking down the stairs with Laura, and Wolverine just looks him dead in the eyes like, what the fuck? But he doesn't give a shit about what's going on there. First thing that comes to his mind is Charles, and he screams his name and runs upstairs, and he sees him, he's like, oh shit. It's that line of, it wasn't me. That just broke me completely. I was like, no, I'm done. I can't do this. it just broke me because that death was just. Obviously, he's not dead at this point because obviously he has a chance to take him downstairs into the back of the truck where he does die. But it's just
sad.
it's sad. I'm tearing up slightly here talking about it.
It's like it sort of comes out of nowhere. Like
yeah,
it has this like proper slow moment. It's like you just gotten used and more comfortable, and then suddenly, wham! Fucking Xavier's dying, and you're like, fucking hell.
yeah, and obviously it goes from that then obviously to that X-24 taking Laura to the van, but then those fucking guys turn up, the ones that Logan beat up, see him and think, oh, it's that guy again, let's go and deal with him. And he's like, oh, I can offer you some money, I'll start you out at 5 G's a week. And then Logan just cuts that guy's head. That fucking head cut was amazing. And he sliced head clean off. And then one by one he's murdering Elise. That's obviously when Rice comes out, he starts yelling at him. He's like, you just stop now, fucking get back to the van now. And obviously he's not giving a shit because, as we've stated, he's pure animal, this one here. So he doesn't, though he listens to some commands, he also doesn't. Because he's got pissed off at the fact he's been shot. So he's just butchering his way through all these. And obviously, while he's butchering, obviously Charles has officially died. And you see Logan's face, he's like, that's it, I'm done. And obviously these guys die, but on top of that, a soldier and Caliban die, because Caliban, as we said, does that line of beware the likes, he stole some grenades and blew up the van, taking down Rice, distracting X-24 enough for Wolverine to essentially tackle him and start slicing the shit out of him, but then get the shit sliced out of him. Which looks brutal. The chest of Logan looks fucking amazing when all the cuts in his chest. And you can literally see his face. He's like, what the hell are you? And obviously, he gets a little help from the dad who runs fucking X-24 into that fucking spikes and whatnot to save his life before dying himself. Because, yeah, obviously he blows the shit out of him with a gun. Blows his head clean off the side. But then dies himself. And then, obviously... Hugh Jackman Logan has to drag Laura into the car and they have to drive away to then bury Charles and have that moment when Hugh Jackman's just kicking the shit out of the car. He's like, damn it, and then it just collapses. Then you have it again, it slows down a bit more. You have a sympathetic moment when he's meeting a doctor and the doctor's like, oh, let me help him. He's like, no, help yourself by not being here. He's like, oh, let me do something though. He's like, no, just be fine. You've helped me enough. Let's go. Obviously then Laura starts to speak and obviously Logan's pissed off because Laura's speaking. He's like, what the fuck?
You can speak now, can you?
He gets really angry about her. And obviously then it slowly keeps going even more and more. Obviously we see the bad guys gearing up ready for this final去as well as obviously showing Laura, being able to drive now for the fact that Logan's falling asleep at the moment. He's like, oh, let's go to sleep. And then she just kicks him out the fucking front seat. He's like, okay, I'm going to drive now. And that's obviously when we meet the kids. We met the kids through video footage earlier on, which is going to come into play in a next film we're going to cover. But this is the first time we're actually meeting them all because they're obviously helping Logan. They're fixing him up and everything. And obviously he's basically giving up the money and whatnot. He's befriending them. They're explaining the plan and whatnot. He's getting shaved by some kids and he's getting really pissed off because I've cut his fucking beard off on me. He's like, that's not funny. And he shows just the little kids for the fact that they're just fucking pissing themselves laughing at the fact that they just shaved the guy. I don't know why that's so funny, because you've shaved someone.
I think it's because the way they did it to make it.
I'm sorry that you broke up.
Yeah.
What was that? You broke up a little bit?
I think I find it funny because they did it like the classic like Wolverine kind of style.
That's what I thought you were going to say. But yeah, there is a deleted scene from this sequence where obviously he references Sabretooth. Because this kid's like, I think he's got a Sabretooth toy or something like that. And he's like, oh, he's my brother. Which is why people are like, oh, Sabretooth could have been in this film, that would have been amazing. But obviously it wasn't. Obviously then it keeps going a bit more before they split up. And we get the, first of the 3-part forest fight, as I like to call it. Because obviously it starts off with Laura and obviously these mutants showing off their powers, taking down soldiers, trying to run away as quick as they can, or getting beat down and whatnot. But obviously Logan's now becoming the Wolverine one last time, because he knows what's happening, he wants to help, using all the injections that they've got, which basically heal you, but if you use too much, eventually just deteriorates you. And now he's gone full Wolverine, because that one, as I said, that one sequence with the piano playing, and he's roaring, and he's just running through, and obviously that it fades into this part where he's fighting soldiers by himself, cutting through them all, and then he teams up with Laura and has to fight. And obviously they do some cool scenes when they're jumping over his back and everything. They're cutting through these soldiers. That whole 3-part sequence is amazing. This is probably my favourite fight sequence in the whole movie. This forest fight, as I like to call it. It obviously just slowly builds up to this Wolverine and Laura last standing against these soldiers, which is an amazing, incredible cinematic fight, hands down.
Definitely, I agree.
And obviously then it fades into the last fight, doesn't it? Where they have to, well, he sends Laura off to go and basically deal with the kids while he deals with Rice and the last bad guy. I just love this scene because Rice there is trying to be sympathetic. It's like, oh, you've used all everything, you're gonna die. Oh, there's no point fighting. And Wolverine's like, fuck you, and just pulls a gun and then just blows his brains out. And then that guy, the other bad guy behind him, is like, oh shit, just trying to duck out of his way. And obviously, the kids are getting released, but at the same time, the last bad guy's released X-24, and we get the final fight, which is Wolverine versus X-24. And obviously, that Wolverine's getting his straight up just brutally massacred by fucking X-24. But at the same time, the last bad guy is getting massacred by these kids because they're fucking holding him down and just killing him in the floor. Just like using all the vines against him, like their power. Every single power is being used just to kill this last bad guy.
Oh my god, it's so brutal.
It is. His face is like he's literally being like suffocated essentially. And he's like, but it's a satisfying villain death. Very satisfying. Obviously, during the Wolverine fight, fucking X-24 just plays him on top of a fucking tree spikes, and Laura has to fucking shoot him in the back of the head because obviously she's got the adamantium bullet, which he obviously referenced earlier too. He's like, oh, it's an adamantium bullet, and use it to basically blow her own brains out and whatnot. And she does because she blows X-24's brains out to save Wolverine, but she doesn't, and we'll get to that later. But I feel like this like little, obviously it was only like a little fight, but it showcased how weak Wolverine is now. Because obviously he showed the earlier fight with X-24 how when he was Logan, he still had a bit more fight in him to fend him off a little bit longer. But this, he doesn't, because he just gets straight up taken down, butchered and whatnot, and just impaled on a spike. It shows the difference between, essentially, obviously our duration of watching the movie like 30 minutes ago to now. It shows how much he's got worse and worse. And it's a satisfying end fight for Wolverine. Very satisfying.
And obviously, for his death, obviously, like I kept saying, the premonition from the previous film has come true. He's lying on his back, blood everywhere, and holding his hand in his heart. His heart in his hand. Got the way around. But you get my gist.
We'll get to that in a bit. We'll get to the ending thoughts in a bit. Because obviously, first, we're moving on from actions sequences, because all of them are great. We'll just say all of them are great. Forest is the best one, but all of them are great. We'll move on to Logan Noir, which, if I get my Blu-ray, is the special edition that you get with the Blu-ray and 4K copy. And it is just the film in black and white, which makes this movie even better. I loved every single second of watching Noir. Obviously, me and Connor were going to discuss this because Connor was going to be a guest today, but sadly he was too ill, so we, had to do it without him. But he spoke to me the other day. He was like, "Oh, Logan Noir is a great version of the movie. It adds to it even more," and I agree, hands down. I think adding a black and white version to a lot of movies does work. The Mist, for example, that adds black and white to its version. It looks great even more. Mad Max Fury Road looks great even more. There's loads of films that have added black and white. Justice League's doing it. Zack Snyder's one. He's doing Justice's grey version. So hopefully that's good as well. But I feel like Logan Noir fully solidifies this as not just obviously one of the greatest solo superhero comic book movies there is, like one of the greatest comic book movies in general.
Definitely.
Definitely. Hands down. It just looks beautiful in black and white. It's just, I need to watch it in black and white again.
I watched a few scenes of it, like in black and white, just to see what it looks like. I saw a few scenes. I saw all of him killing people.
The action sequences.
Yes, and they definitely look good. But unfortunately for me, I can't watch black and white because it hurts my eyes. But
it's Hayden's weird.
The small moments I've seen it's really good.
sum that up. Hayden's weird. Logan Noir good. Okay, Hayden, take the floor. Editing.
Oh fucking hell! The editing was breathtaking. Really, really, really fucking good. You could tell there's a lot of effort put into it. They knew when to do the faster cut, and they knew when to put focus on the slow moments. So that helped it with everything. The pacing, the lighting, brilliant. And adding the whole black and white filter to the other version, definitely good. So yeah, editing good, well done. The best that we've seen in any of the X-Men, I think.
Yeah, I think the only other decent one I'd probably say would maybe Days of Futures Past.
Yeah,
But this is twice that, 10
yeah,
times that essentially. It's just a great edited movie. Even obviously as we move on to pace of the movie, I think the pace is perfect. And obviously the editing helps with the pacing because it's not if you look at some of the X-Men films, obviously. Say obviously they'll do one fight sequence for Days of Future Past, for example. They did a sequence of obviously them fighting the Sentinel at the start. Then it cuts to obviously them going to the past and whatnot, and obviously it keeps cutting into different parts places. But it doesn't really do a lot of time jumps. It literally goes from say for example him doing the fighting the people at the start. It literally flows to him straight away, driving away to fix himself, to then driving throughout his day. His usual night routine to then going back, and obviously even when say there's a sequence where he's not in the scene, they cut in what's happening at the exact same moment to then fade back into him doing what he was doing before but carrying on. So
yeah,
it's spot on pacing. They do it great.
definitely. The whole point of it, because it's not as many characters, it's quite limited.
Yeah,
The characters they use, it's gonna flow a lot better. Because Days of Future Past is basically their end game.
essentially,
Their,
yeah.
yeah, with all the characters I can find and keep cutting to them to oh, that's what this character, this character's doing, that's what that's doing, blah 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 blah. And would get a bit the pacing wouldn't be as the best basically.
Yeah,
This, because they're focusing solely on Logan really, that's when it's brilliant.
that's what helps a lot of these sort of solo driven ones like Joker and it hasn't got obviously there's a few other characters here, but they're obviously side focused. The main focus is him, so the flow is a lot nicer. So yeah, pacing's brilliant in this movie. I can't fault it.
Definitely.
And one thing I also can't fault is their production design. I think the sets look amazing.
Fucking hell. They managed to make the whole place look both post-apocalyptic and futuristic at the same time.
Yeah, because obviously he's his home. That place that looks really post-apocalyptic-y.
Yeah.
And then there's that sequence when he's driving along the highway and there's all the robotics, the actual self-driven sort of vehicles. That looks all futuristic.
Yeah. They've done it's the perfect blend. It's at some points it's Mad Max, and some points it's Blade Runner.
And at some points it's you look at a farm. It's just this basic sort of thing. Yeah. And obviously even that has got the futuristic elements because when they go for the cornfield, there's all the giant robots in the corn.
Yeah.
So it knows how to do this sort of production right. It knows when to merge future and past and Mad Max style future into this sort of thing. So again, I can't really fault production. I think it's probably the best that it's been in the whole of it. Though I did like the last one. I did like the production of the last one because it was very they made it spot on right. I do think this is a lot better.
Yeah, is it 2029? It's saying, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
And even the futuristic tech looks still quite shoddy and downgradable. It doesn't look like Iron Man level armor technology. It's more still basic robotics, but both futuristic and doable.
I agree. I agree there. Obviously, the next thing we'll talk about is the script, and I think the script's spot on. I think obviously the dialogue choices they wrote in the script, none of it's cheesy. I think it's all spot on. Even though obviously the little bits of comedy of when fucking Charles trying to take a piss, and he's like, I could do it myself. And he's like, yeah, I know you can. He's like, I'm not going to do it when you're watching. He goes, I'm not going to watch. Even that, obviously that's a stupid scene, but it's wrote non-cheesy, because they could have wrote that really bad and it could have just felt really cheesy, like forced joke. But it's not. It's perfect just to allow Laurie to go and do her own thing. And just like a lot of the sort, even the sort of dialogues, obviously Caliban's like death, like what he says when he dies, that was really good choice of words. Patrick Stewart's obviously Charles when he dies, when obviously Wolverine says to him, "It wasn't me." That was a good choice of words. And even when he fully dies, when he just references the boat that we're gonna get, the Sunseeker one last time, that took my heart. I was like, for fuck's sake, no, stop it now. And then even Logan's death at the end, when he says, "So this is what it feels like."
Yeah,
that was. Whoa, the script is spot on here.
Like the whole point of Wolverine is that he's never experienced death properly. Like the whole point of him, just like he kind of wants death, and now he's finally found something worth living for, really, and then dies.
I think the closest he's come to death, probably Days of Future Past at the end, when he goes underwater. I think that was the closest, because he looked like he was going to die. That's the closest he came to death. But that line has got me. I think a lot of I can't fault the script. I'm the same. I'm not going into details. Can't fault the script. It's spot on.
Mm-hmm.
It, obviously, as you say, it's helped by the acting as well. Script plus acting is incredible.
Yeah, like the reason why like the dialogue is so good, because as I keep saying, it's a character-driven film. It's designed to be good. Like,
Exactly.
If the dialogue was shit, this film it wouldn't work.
Exactly. I think if dialogue was shit, I think if there was no gore,
Yeah.
I can't really think of something else, but I think if any of that was missed, I think if that was missing, all that sort of stuff. Like if that was there, I think this would have been a lot of basically a letdown like the first one.
Yeah.
But I feel like they knew what they were doing here, so salute.
Definitely.
I don't know why I did a piece then. And again, I didn't want to do a salute because I knew what the salute would look like. But yeah, you get the gist of it. So yeah, we'll move on to our thoughts on the ending, which obviously when Logan dies, which I said before recording, I prefer Patrick Stewart's Charles's death because it was more emotional and tugging. But I feel like this was a good death for Logan.
I think obviously Xavier's works because it's
Out of nowhere.
Out of nowhere. But I think Wolverine's also works well because it's been built up for so long. I think the final payoff is brilliant.
Hands down. It obviously they built up over 3 films, not just 3 films, all the other films as well. They built up this character. Yeah. They built up his strengths, his weaknesses. Obviously, his trilogy's built up his weaknesses more, and they built up throughout this film that he looks like he's about to die. And when he takes the injections, and they're like, "You're dying. You took too much of the medicine. You know it's coming." And obviously, it's quite a brutal way for him to die. So you look at like Iron Man's death in Endgame. He just clicks his finger, and obviously that kills him. But that's not like it's massively brutal. Look at Oliver Queen in Arrow. He does the same as Iron Man, basically. But it's not brutal. But this is a brutal death for a famous character. He literally gets impaled. And obviously, on top of that, he obviously has this heartwarming moment where he's holding his daughter's hand one last time as he just dies. Plus, this is the first time that they're pretty much acknowledging each other as like father and daughter even more.
Yeah.
And it's over, which is just, oh, no. I'm not going to cry.
It's heartbreaking, isn't it?
I'm not going to cry.
I mean, to think that this is the first time he's ever found anything worth living for, and he's...
Apart from Jean. Obviously, Jean was the only other thing that he ever cared for, but this is like twice as much.
She's also a bitch, so...
Yeah.
But like, it's more like... A daughter is more like heartbreaking than some random Phoenix woman.
Yeah. And on top of that, they did the X as well at the end, didn't they? They're building him a grave. They put his cross there, but then she comes back and turns to an X, and it focuses on the X fully, zooms in. And that's a perfect way to end this movie because it showcases that though this was an X-Men film, he's still a legendary X-Men.
Yeah, you got to think about probably as well. That might be the last time, like the last ever real like X-Men member that was alive.
Well, he probably is. To be fair, he probably is the last X-Man left. So it was a great end for a great movie. And on top of that, it flows into fucking Johnny Cash, The Man Comes Around song, which is great. Even obviously, as I said before, the trailer with fucking Hurt from Johnny Cash. Though I wasn't a fan of the second trailer's music choice. The first trailer is what sold this movie hands down. And then obviously the ending flowing into another Johnny Cash song makes this movie even greater. What can I say? I love Johnny Cash.
He's such a Western film.
Yeah.
I mean, there's even that scene where like the whole classic like Western standoff between the train separating them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
There's even the cowboy outfit in that one scene, which is obviously I'm thinking the hat's clearly a hint towards obviously Old Man Logan having a cowboy sort of hat. But I mean that it's very Western, which is what makes this film even get better. This is what it feels like. Okay, so we give it our rating, our stamp of approval, Hayden.
I wonder what our rating's going to be.
Well, I'm going to give Logan and Logan Noir.
Yeah.
A 10 out of 10.
Oh, wow. Who would have thought that? Oh, count my fingers. Got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
You've got 20 fingers, haven't you? You're like a weirdo. You got a weird hand. You got fingers growing out your knuckles.
That's true, yeah. That's 20 out of 20. Definitely a 10 out of 10.
Yeah. That is another simple one for me, just like last week. That gives Logan a Chatgave overall rating of 10 out of 10, which is our first ever movie with 10 out of 10.
Oh
We've never had an overall of 10 out of 10. We've always 9.5 is like the highest. Sorry, 9.7 was the highest for Joker. We've knocked that out of the park with a 10 for Logan.
Why we don't get anyone else involved? Because then we can use our
thing is, I feel like Connor might give it a 10 as well. I'm going to ask him. Because if he did, that would have been all around. I'm going to message him later and say, what would you give it? But yeah, this is the highest rating we've give. I feel like, he does deserve it. He deserves it. Like, I feel like it's probably the highest, like, as a joint between us, we're going to give this year. I feel like there's one film next year, which I'm going to say at recording, which we might both agree on as the best film of the year. Because as we said, there's always one film each year we both agree on. It's a great movie. Last year was Joker, this year's Logan. I'm going to say one for next year out of recording, and I feel like you're going to agree with me. But yeah.
I do agree. Thomas Tank Engine film would be a 10 out of 10 for both of us, I think. Definitely. It's fucking great film.
Well, move on to the question of the day, and that is, what other character would you like to see have this sort of treatment, this sort of Logan, like old, basically last sort of stand type final appearance movie? And it isn't, obviously, it's like a character that this person's made famous. Like, as I say, Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, he's made this famous. It doesn't even have to be superhero based. I've got like a prime list of examples. So, examples I have is obviously Indiana Jones. That'd be an interesting. Obviously, James Mangold's doing that, so that would make sense. Other ones I've got, Wesley Snipes is One More Time as Blade. I think that'd be interesting. I think that'd be a really interesting one. The Punisher from 2004, Thomas Jane one.
Yeah,
I feel like that'd be an interesting, because he's done the character once in that more afterwards in that like short film. So it'd be interesting to see him come back one last time in like a final hurrah. Stallone's Rambo, they did Last Blood, and I felt it was a letdown. And that was very much going for a Logan style movie, and it just failed. I feel like they could try it one more time and get it right. What else have I got? Technically speaking, they've got another old man in the comics, Old Man Hawkeye. They could always do that. What was the last two I got? Here's another one. Sigourney Weaver as Ripley in Aliens. That'd been interesting, like one last alien movie with her in. Or even Arnie as Dutch in Predator. Any of those, I think, would make interesting movies for like this style of treatment.
No, I think. How about a live action adaptation, but it's of a TV show? Yeah. There's going to be dark.
Ben 10.
No, it's going to be about the fall of a once great man. I'm thinking a Bob the Builder. Like,
oh my god!
But with the actual voice actor.
Oh my god!
Like he suffered because of like lockdown or something, and like his entire like building career has been let down. All of his machines have been scrapped off, and it's just him and like the death of
Bob. Wendy.
Wendy, that's it. The death of Wendy. She's like dying. He's like, he's broken down life. And he's a
Old
big
man Bob.
of old man Bob.
I'd
All
pay
this-
to watch that movie. I grew up watching that show. Then it went shit when they remade it. I pay to watch Old Man Bob.
I love the idea of it being the original voice actor as well, but being like playing the actual live action character.
Would it be brutal though? Would he be like smashing people over the head with hammers?
Oh yeah.
Oh
It's
yeah,
like,
I'm going to watch that movie.
like a really dark like version. Like he's like getting into, like, stuck in this like weird like gang warfare or something like that.
Yes, that sounds amazing.
All he wants to do is fix it, but he can't fix it.
Is the end credit song gonna be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Everybody.
slow and like, the tagline would be like Bob the Builder, like the movie. This time he can't fix it.
Oh, that sounds amazing. I felt like you was going Ben 10 when you're saying dark and TV show, but that is 20 times better than what you could have gone with. That, yeah. Bob,
Yeah.
the Old Man Bob, coming soon to cinemas near you. Oh, I think that's it.
I've seen like the actor play some pretty like dark characters in a way. Like, 'cause I remember like, him like he walked the road. He was pretty like gritty. So I can imagine that, but like,
Old Man Bob. Oh, I feel like that's a good way to end. Old Man Bob. So join me and Hayden next week as we move away from a Wolverine trilogy, but stick with a film that has a scene that connects to this movie. As you take a look at the many times delayed New Mutants movie that came out, end of last year, start of this year.
mm-hmm.
Until then, I've been your host, Drinking Thomas Hughes.
And I found out how to watch this film.
And this has been Chatter Cave Podcast. And I feel like you can agree with this, Hayden, for an outro. I feel like from the bottom of all our hearts, at both Fair Lara Studios and Drinking Studios, thank you, Hugh Jackman and Patrick Stewart, for, it would be 17 years, but it's 21 years now. 21 years of this character.
Yeah. And honestly, thank you, Neil Morrissey, for playing Bob the Builder. Literally from 1998, our entire lives he's been playing Bob the Builder, and that says stuff.
Fucking Old Man Bob.